Well, Oran, you must be delighted to sign a 3-year contract now.
Absolutely, and I've been back probably a couple of years now, and it's been helter skelter, and things just haven't stopped. And I think myself and Colin have spoke about it probably quite a few times, particularly in the last few months. But just so much else going on and so much else to do, that you sort of keep putting everything else to the forefront, particularly with pitches, with trying to qualify for Europe, and then in the off season it's arranging games and trying to get contracts sorted of players and everything else that goes with it. So weeks, months just keep passing from that point of view, and it probably come to the point where we just said, you know what, we need to get this sorted and out there. So thankfully we got to that point very quickly today.
And obviously, you've been back now for another 2 years. You must be pleased with the progress you've made.
I am, and it's like I'm fiercely ambitious, and I think we all know the journey without going over old ground. The journey we've been on over the last 10 odd years since I've been at the club, and but the big part, I think, the big part of me wanting to sustain and go even further is what we're joking about here with the pitch and everything else at the minute, and I suppose me at the front of it, I have to be the one that raises the bar and continually tries to push that. And push everybody around me in relation to that. And to be fair to the board, they're wanting to do exactly the same. And when decisions like this are made, and when you look at the plans that have been out in the last couple of weeks about what this hopefully will look like in the next couple of years, it's up, it whets your appetite, and it really makes you want to be a part of it and want to be around it.
And obviously, the preparations are starting already for next season and Europe to look forward to.
Yeah, it hasn't stopped, to be honest with you. So it was a busy sort of 2.5 weeks off there. The players have come back in this week fresh and bubbly and full of beans again, and looking forward to getting back and at it. So we know the draw now. We know what's at stake, and I think the experiences of last year will hopefully stand us in good stead.
And Colin, as chairman, you must also be pleased with the new.
Absolutely, Johnny. It's Oren and I have worked together now for a very long time. We have an understanding from day one since Oren came to the club here. Formalising things with the contract side of things is another step. Oren has obviously taken us to the level over the European qualification again. I think at this time last year, we'd have been sitting here talking about European football, considering the start that we had and so forth. To get to where we've got to is absolutely fantastic, and it's testament to Oren and how he's gone about his business. And we try and give him Oren the best that we can give him as a football club, but Oren obviously has to deliver out there, of which he has done time on time. So that's the reason we're trying to get Oren to the club here long term.
And the Echo Orange statement obviously about the redevelopment plans. There's exciting things both on and off the pitch.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a lot of work that's gone on here behind the scenes for quite some time, and I know some of you guys have been involved in it and know a bit about it, but there's been an awful lot of work that's gone on here that people haven't seen. I hope that it comes to fruition. I really do. Like, we've presented to the council leisure committee and got cross-party support, which is a great plus for the club, which gives me great belief that we can deliver the community aspect of it. It's now time for us then to move on to the next stage of our development as a football club, and hopefully we can get the sub-regional monies available as all of Northern Ireland football will be looking for.
Just you said there, Ron, you're fiercely ambitious and you've signed a 3-year contract. You've managed to get Europe 3-time runners-up 3 out of the last 4 years. You always say you want to go one step better than the season previously. So all that said, I guess your ambition for next year is to go one step further and to target that elusive league title.
I think it's always been that the first 3 or 4 years here, I think it was never a possibility, and probably in the last 4 or 5 years, you start to harbour those ambitions only because of the work that's gone on and because we find ourselves in a position now where we can compete. It's been highly frustrating the last few years. It's been very enjoyable, four trips to Europe out of 5 from a club's perspective, but it's been highly frustrating. Always the bridesmaid and not the bride in the last few years from that point of view. And saying that, even in the last 3 or 4 years, like, we are absolutely punching above our weight in relation to the other clout that there is in the league, and particularly probably this season and the next few seasons. To get Europe this season with the 4 full-time teams that are there, that's only going to get even tougher as they really establish themselves and really kick on. So, but with that, it's thoroughly enjoyable. You know, it's a challenge. It's not one we're defeatist in. It's not one we ever have looked at and said, oh, it's not fair and we'll not do that anymore. We managed to keep finding a way to hang on to these teams, and again, moving forward, it is going to be as tough, if not tougher. But for us, we've got to find ways, and hopefully the pitch, the facilities, and everything else will be one of those things that allows us to really push on.
And you've signed a couple of players in long-term 3-year deals, and yourself a 3-year deal, and that continuity is an important thing as well, isn't it? When you get players to commit to the club, you're committing to the club, and it's like we're all in this together. You've mentioned being underdogs against the so-called bigger teams, and that's an important thing, that togetherness, isn't it?
It is, and you know, we've said it before, with many a player that we sign, we're very careful about who we bring into the environment. You know, I think gone are the days of 5 or 6 seasons ago when it was 14 out and 12 in sort of a thing, and I think the business we do in the transfer windows of late, of the last 4 or 5 transfer windows, I think is a hell of an indication of where we sit at this point in time at the club, that we have a group of players that are settled but that are still hungry, which is very important, because sometimes being out of place a long time can sometimes breed a little bit of that people get bored with it or whatever else, but we manage to keep enthusing people, we manage to keep people, not just us, but I think the players bring a lot of that themselves. We have a lot of, as you know, a lot of fantastic leaders from within the club, both vocal and non-vocal from that point of view. But with that, you know, we're really content with where we sit at this point in time.
Obviously, Oran, the club has shown faith in a 3-year deal, but you've also reciprocated with the faith by signing a 3-year deal, and that you show that you're valuing the project and you believe in what the club's trying to achieve.
It is, and we're not standing still, and I think it's easy to do that in life. And you know, I've just said it about from a player's point of view, it's highly dangerous sometimes when a group of people are at a place for a certain amount of time, and that goes for me as well, because you know the easiest thing to do is to get into a comfort zone. Oh, we've got in Europe for a year or two, or this is how we've always done it. So you know, there's a huge amount of thought going into the pitch, even restructuring around the changing rooms and bits and pieces to change how we manage in a working week. But also just I think what the pitch will allow us to do from a training point of view, it allows us to really raise the bar in those aspects. So as much as you're demanding of that of players, that they go again and they find this new lease of life and this new hunger to go again, it's important that comes as well. And I think for me in this next cycle, to me the development of everything that we're talking about here, you know, if that doesn't enthuse and inspire anybody about wanting to really kick on, well then, you know, you shouldn't be in this game.
And in terms of transfer market, obviously you mentioned the full-time teams that have come on it. Has that changed how you go about your business, or does it give maybe certain opportunities with players that maybe don't fancy going?
It's absolutely, it's absolutely changed. To answer the first part of the question, it's absolutely changed the dynamic, because for once we're now at a point where there are certain players in the league that we just wouldn't go for or couldn't go for, because of if we're competing with some of those bigger full-time sides, that we just can't cope with it from that point of view. But secondary, what we also have to look at is, it doesn't possibly suit every player in this country to be a full-time player. So you know, first and foremost, what we have to be is the best part-time club out there. And I suppose this season, by our league position, we finished top of the part-time clubs as far as we're concerned. And with that, we've got to keep looking for the best players that we can and that fit the model that we're trying to sustain.
And Colin getting Oran to sign the new deal, is that one of the most important signings that the club has made?
You must have been reading the message I sent earlier to our board members. Yes, there has to be someone that organises everything, details it, but you have a group of players. Not only is Oran organising his first team squad, as we all know, how they have been operating and how they he's been dealing with that, but there's other football aspects that Oran has been dealing with now over the 2-year cycle. To be honest with you, we've got a very good Coleraine youth structure in place now, academy director in place, our 16s and our 18s and our 20s. We've now got lads going across on trial, so the pyramid is building, or is built there, and we're now starting to see that. Hopefully we can see it coming through into the first team here. So Oran's a massive part of that, and then for me, it's very clear for me, we need someone who has the structure, who has the vision that matches the club's vision, but also can deliver, and Oran's a man that has proven in the past that he can do that.